The National Museum of Funeral History presents The Final Curtain Never Closes. I'm your host, Genevieve Vasquez, the president and CEO of the museum. So we're really excited for our guest today. And I have to say that, coming to this subject matter with the National Museum of Funeral History, if you have talked to me in the past about it, it is a subject matter that I will not validate or deny here at the National Museum of Funeral History. But we can't go without saying that during life, many of us will experience or believe in an afterlife. And when we think about afterlife, it's what does that look like? What form does it take? How do we know it exists? And so I have a very fascinating guest with me today. Her name is Angela Kaatz. She is the owner and producer of Ghost Hunting Beauties. Yes, you heard me. I took that leap. And we are going to talk about ghosts today, a subject that I've tried so hard to avoid. But when there's death, obviously, there are ghosts. So, absolutely. Angela, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. You have an amazing place here, and I'm looking forward to exploring more, too.
Oh, thank you. So, fascinating as it is, I love your title, Ghost Hunting Beauties.
Thank you.
Tell me, how long have you been doing that, and how did it get started?
I got started about 2 to 3 years ago that, there's so much out there in the world of the paranormal. Anything outside of the normal is considered paranormal. So there's so many ghost hunting shows. There's, shows about cryptids and different things, exploring things that we don't understand. But what we don't see a lot of is women exploring these things, all women teams. It's almost like a woman is an accessory to the show versus being the show. So I got really excited when I've seen so many girls going out and ghost hunting. And that's whether they're young girls, middle-aged, even older. The age limit is endless with people that are exploring the paranormal. So I'm fascinated, and I figured if I have an interest, others will too. So why not explore it?
It's interesting that you would put it in that context because thinking about some of the people that I have talked to or been involved in my past experiences in this career, a lot of the women I have engaged with have that sense of that paranormal connection.
Oh, for sure.
And if you think about it, a lot of tarot readers, card readers, psychics, those are generally women. So do you think that being a paranormal investigator such as yourself and as women embarking into that realm, would you lead that because maybe we're more nurturing, we have ability to connect at a different level?
I think for sure. I think you've hit the nail on the head that women have a different sense and capability. And there's also sensitive men as well. But as you've seen with tarot card readers and a lot of things and mystics and things in the past, has been a lot of women because people who come to want to learn about the afterlife are going to come to someone who's not as judgmental, someone that's soft and caring and can present the paranormal in a way that's not so scary.
And nurturing, right? Nurturing that soul or nurturing that presence that's come back to visit us, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's feeling safe, right? We create the safety for them.
That's for sure.
Gosh, that's fascinating. So, I have a lot of questions going on in my head.
I'm here for them all.
I was like, where do I begin? People talk about all of these different types of experiences. I've had my own personal experiences with what I believe to be encounter with a spirit or a ghost, But there are times in my brain that I will second guess myself and I'll be like, oh, my head's playing tricks on me.
Right.
So how can I validate that my mind's not playing tricks on me, but that is actually something that is true, valid, and is existing?
Usually when you come across something that's out of the ordinary, a lot of times it is spirits trying to connect with you. And it's natural to second guess because our first, jump to conclusion shouldn't be it's a ghost. I can't tell you how many times I've seen something out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, what is that? What is that? That's why we do a lot of debunking as well to try to go through and make sure, are we sure this is something that's out of the ordinary? Is this something trying to connect to us? But a lot of times if you're say for grandparents that have passed, a lot of times when you're thinking of them, it's them trying to come through and communicate with you. And I usually say, trust your instincts. If at the end of the day you go, that feels like that wasn't a coincidence. Like you hear a song on the radio or something reminds you, or a certain smell that's not present in your home. I'll give you an example. My grandfather smoked cigars and he smoked pipes. So it's a certain scent. And every now and then I would think of him and smell that scent. And I'm like, there is no way, because there is nothing in this house with a pipe. I mean, like little Popeye type of pipe that would be in our house. And so I think that we trusted those instincts more. So as, we get older and we start to develop a very critical mindset, that sometimes we do shirk it off as just coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidence. I think that they really are trying to connect with us.
Do you think we shirk it off out of fear?
It could be. A lot of people don't want to see. I can't tell you how many people have been scared to watch my show because they would just rather not know that something's there. And I tell them I completely understand. And that's why I make my show different, so that I can help people to understand that just because it's not normal and it's out of the ordinary, that exploring haunted history can be fascinating. And if you can connect with the spirits to tell you their real stories and not just what's written on paper, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is interesting. I just, there are times when I try to validate things. And I'll speak to one incident that happened to me. I work in palliative care part-time. Mm-hmm. And so I'm actually there when people pass away.
Oh my goodness.
And they're, and in Hollywood, they really dress it up, right?
Oh, yeah.
The spirit is this white light, white foggy substance that begins to ascend out of their body and kind of just, go up into the heavens and dissipate as it continues to ascend, So I remember when in my first few deaths that I experienced, I literally stood over the body looking for that white fog, right?
I can't blame you. That's what we've been shown.
Exactly, right? Of course, I never saw it. But there was one patient, interesting enough, his wife was on her way to visit because we called to let her know that its condition was changing.
Right.
And so she unfortunately didn't make it for the actual passing. And so I went and I pulled the pin on his watch to stop the time.
Oh, wow.
So that she would know the exact time that he took his last breath.
Oh, my goodness.
And because it's different than the actual time of death on the death certificate.
Right.
Because there's a time lapse between us, notifying the loved one and bringing the actual doctor or nurse practitioner in to do the pronouncing. And so something came over me to pull the pin on his watch, and I did. And the lady came in and she sat down and she finally got there. I explained to her that this is his actual time of death. It'll be different than what's on the death certificate, just to explain the situation. Mm-hmm. And I heard this loud thunk against the foot of the couch.
Whoa.
And I thought it was her. And I was like, "Are you okay, ma'am? Did you trip?" Mm-hmm. And she's already in the seated position. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm fine." I said, "Did you hear that noise?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Did you trip against the couch?" And she goes, "No, I had a stroke. My left side is weak. I could not make that noise."
Goodness.
And I thought, oh my gosh, is this him coming to say a goodbye to her?
Absolutely.
And I was trying everything to debunk that sound.
Right.
And I couldn't.
Right.
I was checking her seated position, where she was located in the room, where the sound came from. And I was like, there is no way this sound could have happened.
Exactly.
Except that he had come back to say goodbye to her, and he had to make a noise to let her know his presence was in the room.
And that's how we validate right there. You've hit the nail on the head. You validated with that. You try to debunk, you try to go through. I mean, even back with our Native American ancestors, that we had different cultures from around the world. We all communicated with the dead. It was normal. It wasn't out of the ordinary. It was something that was normal. Even with movies like Coco, touching on to the Hispanic culture, to where they make it a regular
It's
deal.
an annual celebration and event that they, we have an exhibit here. So hopefully you'll get to visit it.
See, I can't
the
wait.
Dia de los Muertos, which is an actual Latin American holiday where they celebrate their ancestors. They celebrate the dead. They believe the spirit is coming back to visit 100%. During that time frame. So yeah, you're right. Where is it in our historical timeline, or maybe our culture, did we turn away from that? And go from it being normal to it being abnormal, and now it's kind of like something we kind of like, kind of are repulsed by.
Right. I think even within the last 100 years or so, that a lot of people, they had, let's say through the 1920s, they started with people started going to mystics and doing seances. So it started becoming a cultural thing to where we were bringing it back. And then a lot of religion stepped in and people started to not really like the results that were coming from that. You see a lot of hauntings and a lot of different things. And perhaps we were opening the door to something we didn't know how to close the door to. So then we started getting kind of a bad rap of communicating with ancestors and communicating with the dead. And then even the Ouija board was invented just for fun. It was just a board game.
Yeah.
And then it turned into something to where you know how it goes. You have something that's good and someone has to turn it into something that's bad. And I think, honestly, the media stepped in at some point and we started getting the first movie I get from people, Poltergeist.
Oh, yes.
And we start seeing, The Exorcist, and we start going, this is all bad. The dead are bad. This is something, we started bringing in our own ideals and preconceived notions. So by that point, no one wanted to hear or do seances or anything. We were done. We were like, what is this? We don't want our house to shake, or I don't want to go through the TV.
Yeah, exactly. And you're very right. I mean, you do, hit a lot of valid points that, what was once accepted is now become, something to it's looked at in a negative way.
For sure.
And it's the same with death and dying.
Right.
And trying to get people to understand that National Museum of Funeral History is here for educating about something that everybody's going to experience one day.
100%.
100%,
right. There's no getting out of it. Death and taxes.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you can cheat on your taxes. But you can't cheat death.
True.
Uncle Sam's coming for you regardless.
Right. That's so true. So
whether
true.
he gets you in life or he takes it out of you once
That's
you're
right.
dead.
Or maybe even the afterlife. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, it's so interesting because if you even think about, we used to care for our dead in our own home.
100%. We weren't so scared back then.
Yeah, it was so natural. It was just, we live and we die, and death was part of life. And then, I think like you're saying here, there became a time where we removed that from life. Yes. We took it and we put it, we gave it to strangers to take care of. We took it out of our day-to-day understanding and what living really meant.
Right.
So I'm thinking, I see a parallel here
Yeah.
with our paranormal activity, the acceptance of it, and death.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so glad to be here to experience something, because death used to be something that wasn't seen as so horrible and tragic per se, because you knew there was another place to go. Think about Egyptians. It was a celebration when you come into, you've got pyramids being built, you've got tombs. We're honoring them in a way that was extraordinary. There weren't a lot of tears. There was, wow, he's going to this next level.
And if you think what we've done with the Egyptians as well as the Vikings, not only we were happy for them, we were giving them the tools they needed and items to take into that afterlife with them.
Exactly.
So we believed back then that death was just another passage, a bridge to be crossed.
For sure.
Into the next realm.
Oh,
and
yes.
It's like, do you think we could ever get back to that?
I really hope so. I hope with a lot of these paranormal shows and with a lot of people that are exploring the afterlife, that we can get back to a sense of feeling like we know there's something after death. And so therefore, death can then be transformed into a celebration going, we know that our loved ones are somewhere else waiting for us.
Yeah, or watching over us.
And watching over us too.
Yeah.
There's so many spirits that I've come and I find a lot of the spirits that I communicate with are here for the pettiest of reasons. And it makes me think petty in life, petty in afterlife.
So let's talk about some of those experiences.
Sure.
So do you actually communicate with the dead?
100%. Since I was a little girl, it was something that I didn't announce until my show. So I had a lot of people that they did change a little bit of perception for me, but I actually found it more welcoming than anything. So I found people they must be becoming more receptive to it, to mediums and psychics and different things. Because again, there are certain religions that can prohibit us from seeing that and appreciating that. I've had people, and I'm very respectful of all religions and beliefs. I've had people tell me, how do you know you're not just talking to demons? And I go, well, I hope not. And I was like, they seem a lot friendlier than what I've seen.
But then again, what does a demon look like?
Exactly. How do we know?
We don't. And I think a lot of our perception is based on what we have created,
right?
Humanistically. Mm-hmm. And then we've put it through theatrically through performances and in movies and in television. So it becomes sensationalized and entertaining. But at the same time, that's where it needs to stay. Heaven forbid if it should come into the reality of our life.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so
you see biopics done on people that so much is sensationalized that we're not even telling actual history anymore. And everything is such, I find that a lot of haunted places that we go, that a lot of it is rumors and speculation. And then people project that onto those locations a lot of times. You may go to a place that is perfectly fine or a spirit that's misunderstood, and you're walking in going, oh, I'm surrounded by darkness. And it's really just someone that says, I don't want you here. I want to be in peace. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Well, my very dear friend, she's Hispanic. And so like you, as a very young girl, she's always been connected with the spirits. But to her, it was always a scary thing. Right. And so because of my interests in life and what I always did and dabbled with dealing with the dead to some facet, whether it was in the military or currently in my life, she felt comfortable opening up to me about that part of her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so I would tell her all the time, I was like, well, why can't I see dead people? I want to talk to them, How can I find them, And she sat me down one day and she said, I think the reason why you can't is because you deal with it with a lot of people.
Right.
And because you deal with them, there's a sense of protection that's been bestowed upon you so that you're able to still focus on your job.
For sure.
In caring for them in their most important time, which is that time of passing.
Absolutely.
And the short thereafter. So I was like, okay, I took that answer with great pride.
Absolutely.
And I said, well, if it's meant to be, I'll see it. And if it's not, I'll accept it.
Oh, for sure. That's one of the things I've been asked. The most common question I'm asked is, how can you see them and not me? And I think we are all gifted in one way or another to have the capabilities. But some of us, like you said, with your job, it would be difficult then seeing spirits walking around everywhere. Mm-hmm. You're like, I'm going home. It's like, this is enough for me, because then it would hinder your caregiving at some point, possibly if they're just trying to tell you stuff. Tell her I said this, tell her I did it. And that's what happens to mediums a lot, is that we have to learn to open and close that door. Because when I first opened up again, I couldn't go anywhere. It was so loud. And if anyone listening is a fan of comic books, I always think of it like Superman. So Superman, he can hear everything. He's got hypersensitive hearing. It's like, but he learned to tune it in to the sound of, I hear one person screaming for help. That's where I'm going, and honing in. So the same as with our gifts and abilities, is we have to hyper-focus on what we want to hear or don't hear, welcome it at the appropriate times, and then we can communicate when we're ready.
It's interesting because I had the opposite. I have a very sensitive ability of sensing the energy in a room.
Oh, nice. So that's gifted right there.
Yeah. So my gifts are before the death actually happens. And I always get the question, for some reason, the families, do you know when he's going to die? Oh. And so for me, I'm like, we're not God, and we're not the person to actually, say, okay, you're going to die at this time.
Right.
But professionally, I have learned to see the signs. But it's weird because I can pick up energies in the room and I can sense things and be able to confidently speak in my expertise of what I'm visualizing and what I'm seeing from that person who's very near death.
For sure.
So that part is interesting. And I also learned that there's a lot of energy that goes into caring for the dead and their families at the time of.
100%.
And I've had to learn boundaries.
Oh, yes. That's very smart.
For you, it was learning to tune in and tune out a lot of the noise. For me, it was learning to say, okay, all my energy has been depleted.
Right.
I need to step back I need to re-energize. I need to regroup because it became very taxing on me. I picked up on that very, very, not very quickly. I think it took me a couple of years to finally realize why I was feeling so drained or so exhausted. But it was because of the energy that was being emitted to me, the informational energy, if I can say it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because we're all made up of energy. And that's honestly my current working theory, even with my show, is that since we're all made up of energy and the energy is put into this physical body, that once the physical body is gone, that energy still can be drained or transferred. So, energy can't be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So I'm going, where is it transferred? It's like, how is it transferred? Like I get down to, I want to even learn the science of it because even me with my abilities, when I communicate with people who are on the other side or transferred to a different place, it's the same thing that you said, completely drained. I get tired and exhausted. So a lot of times I try to fly under the radar because otherwise people would be like, here, read me. What is Grandma saying? I was like, Grandma's not here, but sure.
yeah. That's it's, and people don't understand that it's somewhat of a calling and in that moment, right? So you can't just be in the presence of that person and then their loved one automatically presents themselves.
Right. Because I feel that once you, and this is just, like I said, again, a working theory, because I'm always open to learning more, is that when we cross over, and let's say we can even put it in a spiritual perspective, if you believe the light, the place of light, heaven, whatever you want to call it, the place to where we're supposed to go, we cross over into there. If you're in the happiest place on earth, would you really want to come back?
Yeah, right.
I mean, if you're in Disneyland and somebody called you home to do laundry, you're probably going to hang up the phone at that point and go, no, thank you. I'm in Disneyland. Mickey Mouse is right here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of how I explain it to people, is that if a loved one doesn't come back to communicate, it doesn't mean they don't love you or have messages for you, that they're probably in a happier place to where they're supposed to be. Or even with some cultures, I have explored with many people that they believe that you can reincarnate.
Yes.
So possibly they've gone on to another body and they're starting over. And that's one of the things I've been exploring as well, because I'm like, oh, how would you know that? And
well, interesting. You should talk about that because, but let's put a little pause on reincarnation and come back to that because I want to elaborate on that. But you were talking about how you were studying the different religions, and I think that's important for people to understand that. Sometimes when I go in and I'm taking care of a patient, they'll be like, well, where do you think my loved one's going to go? And I'm like, your loved one's going to go where you believe he's going to go.
Right.
Because religion dictates that, cultural, background dictates that. And sometimes just basically your current beliefs. We don't know where we're going. And unless, somebody went there and checked it out and came back and was able to tell us about it.
Right.
We've heard about those people.
We have.
But again, it's all in the eye of the beholder, right?
For sure.
And the believer. So I think that that's important for people who are listening to understand that really and truly we're all different people. We all 100%. Have different experiences, different perspectives, different cultural backgrounds, different religious beliefs. And I think if we can embrace that, the differences within us, we can have a more harmonious life.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times that when I started, the Ghost Hunting Beauties, is that I wanted to listen to everyone's perspective, even with people who were skeptical, people who didn't believe in any of it at all. I fully respect them because I wouldn't expect someone to just be naive and go, everything you say is real, but I don't know you. You need to have a healthy skepticism because otherwise people can take advantage of that. Like even going back to the mystics that we spoke about earlier, there were so many people that took advantage of people and go, oh, sure, you want me to talk to Grandma? Grandma's here and she says this and this and this. And they use a lot of context clues of, she wants you to be happy. Anyone can say that.
Exactly.
And that's how, when you said, how do I know? It's usually when loved ones are coming through, they're very specific. It's something only you can know. And I can give a shout out to my friend, but I won't say her name, but she shared with me, one of her friends was communicating with her. And she said, I need to know if this is real or what's happening. I need you to see if he'll talk to you. And it was, within minutes, this gentleman showed up. And I'm thinking he has something profound to say to her, like, I've missed you. I'm so proud of you. You're a great friend. Thank you for your friendship. All he tells me is he couldn't stand her yellow shirt that she wore all the time. And I went, you're kidding me. You came back from the other side to tell me you couldn't stand a specific yellow shirt. So I call her, and she's thinking I've got this epic message. And I said, did you wear a really ugly yellow shirt that you didn't think was ugly, but your friend just couldn't stand? She starts hysterically laughing and sends me the picture of the shirt.
Wow.
So there's the validation, and there was that shirt, and I go, I have to agree with your friend. It's like, please don't wear that shirt ever again. And I think that's why I say petty in life, petty in afterlife. We're still people, even when we pass on. And that's why I was really excited to come here too, is to see how many people celebrated, with funerals, having that. Even my parents, they have all their stuff ready. To me, it's very hard but as I'm doing the show, I know they're going somewhere. That they may not be here with me, but as long as their spirit's going somewhere happy, that I'm going to celebrate them. I'm all about celebrations of life.
Yes.
That's me. It's like, I want to celebrate your life, and then I want to go out with a big bang,
Yes, me too. I'm the exact same way.
Right. A big party.
Celebration. But I wanted to circle back on that validation of communication and tell you about another personal experience that I had. And I was in this really bad relationship with a gentleman, and it was interesting because I kept having a bird run into my windows at the house.
Oh, no.
In different windows. Like if I was in the kitchen, it would run into the dining room window. If I was in the living room, it would run into the living room window. And of course, this isn't consecutive.
Right.
This is over maybe a week, 2 weeks would pass, and then another bird would hit the window. And I was like, so I looked it up, of course. I'm like, what does it mean? What kind of sign is that when a bird runs into your window? Because when it happens multiple times, there's something going on.
No longer a coincidence at that point.
Yeah. So I said, okay, they say it's a message from your loved one.
Really?
I
haven't heard that one yet.
Is that they're trying to get a message to you, and be open to what's going on in your life that they might be trying to give attention to, right?
Yes.
And so I was making every excuse for this person to be in this relationship and, foregoing all my own self-worth at the time. And so finally one day I am laying in my bedroom. My back door is open and I have a 10 by 10 covered patio.
Oh, nice.
So it's a 2-story house and I'm on the ground floor. The next thing I knew, a bird is in my room.
Oh, he made it in. He was trying to get in.
He went in the back. He literally flew under the port, the cover, to go in one door.
Oh, my goodness.
Make a right turn.
Wow.
Stop.
So he knew where to go.
And make a right turn to go into my room instead of just going straight through and then forward up into the cathedral ceiling in the very, very front room.
Wow.
And then he flew around once and went back out the exact same way.
He was coming
I was
for you.
Like, okay.
I am here.
Okay, I'm listening. I am listening.
Right.
Needless to say, within 2 weeks, that relationship ended. There was a lot of things that had happened, and I think that it was a foretelling that something bad was to happen, and I really needed to be firm in my decision and end this because it was going to get worse.
Right.
I'm like, obviously, the bird running into my window 3 or 4 times, and obviously it was a different bird every time, but I wasn't listening. And they're like, I believed it was my sister.
Some way.
I believed it was my sister, coming, to really give me a message to,
for sure.
Kind of shake me and say wake up and smell the coffee.
Right. I agree. I've heard of, now that I haven't heard of that in particular with them hitting the window, but I have heard that birds are messengers.
Yes.
Especially cardinals. Cardinals are really common. My mother will never see a cardinal. And then when she starts sensing her mother, my grandmother, then she'll start seeing a cardinal. And it specifically just sits there and looks at her and she's like, okay, oh, hi, Mom.
Yeah.
Because she's one of those that she doesn't want to see it or hear it, but she's gifted as well. And hers come through dreams and visions, and hers are very specific dreams and visions. And like you said earlier, how do I know and validate? Another way is very specific visions, because we're not supposed to be able to read in our dreams. Like words and letters will become jumbled. That's how a lot of times you know you're dreaming. Try to read something. If you can lucid dream, you know you're dreaming. But if you can read or you see a word, it is an absolute vision coming to you for some reason.
Oh, I never heard of that. That is very interesting. Wow.
It's been incredible. Like when I was little, I got visions all the time. I knew when people were going to pass, kind of like you said. My mother, she was a nurse in a nursing home. And so walking around I kind of sense the same energy and feelings. And me, I was just a little kid and I was like, oh, it's like, you're going to heaven soon. And they're propping on their bed and then they're like, oh, I know. And they just laugh at me and go off. And it was one of those that as a kid that I wasn't seeing death as something horrific or scary or that my friend was going to leave me because I was like the grandkid, the adopted grandkid of the whole nursing home. As I went in every room and played checkers, I would wake people up and go, hey, I know you're sleeping, but you want to put together a puzzle? My mom's like, please, 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 can you just stop? But they were all my friends. And that was, so death at a very young age was something that was very much put forth as to be accepted, celebrated. And I learned that when we pass, a lot of times it's alone. And so
Yes.
I wanted to be that person that was there. And then my brother had cancer. So then my other part of my childhood was spent in a children's cancer ward. So a lot of times I go and visit with someone and they're not there the next day. But I could sense them still in that room and then not anymore. And I could never explain that as a child. I would tell my mom and she was dealing with so much of her own stuff. It was just too much for her to deal with. Too much. I watched parents grieve. I watched parents celebrate when their children was done with therapy. My brother, he is doing well, doing great.
Good.
And it's one of those that I said that if my time comes, I definitely want to make sure that I know I'm going somewhere, but I want to be sure. Like we all want to be sure. And like when you sense that energy, like you said, with your experience, there's something. We just don't exactly know what. So
Yeah,
it's worth to keep exploring.
Yeah, people always ask me, are you afraid to die? And I said, no, actually, I'm not afraid to die.
Right.
It's how I'm going to die. That's what I'm afraid of.
Right.
Because I know I'm going to die one day. I mean, we all can hope that we're going to die of old age in our sleep peacefully surrounded by all our loved ones. That's
Taking
the
a nap.
ideal death. Yeah.
Let me be taking a nap.
Let me just take a nap and never wake up. But
Right.
Yes. But we know that isn't true.
Right.
Death comes with, in so many, we call it death has so many different faces.
For sure.
And so just like grief has so many different faces and the way our loved ones communicate to us also have different faces. So earlier you were talking about reincarnation.
Oh, yes. That always excites me because I'm actually in the process of learning more about that, and especially with studying Egyptian history and different things. And I noticed you have some of those artifacts here too. So as soon as I walked in, I went, oh, that's so cool. I'm already excited as I'm walking in the door.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because we have a lot of exhibits that are even speaking to some of the historical, important, cultural and ritual customs around the dead that you, even in this present day, are learning that it's important to the work that you do today.
Yes.
With the Dia de los Muertos and the Egyptians and the funerals and the celebrations of life. I mean, truthfully, that's what our museum is about.
I love it.
But so, and I can go deep in that.
Right.
And we will talk more about funerals and preparing and celebration of life because it's an important aspect. But back to the reincarnation. So what got you into wanting to dive deeper into reincarnation?
One of those was I was doing a reading for a very close friend of mine. And it was in her cultural belief. I told her, I said, look, what is your cultural belief? Because I want to be respectful when I do this reading for your loved one. And I don't want to say anything, because a lot of people, that's it. They believe you die once, you're gone, that's it. And if their belief was different, I didn't want to go, oh, well, say the wrong thing. But I wanted to be very truthful and honest and transparent. So she told me, said, yes, we are very open-minded and we are open to beliefs in reincarnation. And so that was one of the things that her loved one communicated with me. They go, well, I'm coming back. And I was like, oh, I got excited because it's one of the first times I heard a spirit actually tell me that. And I went, you can come back? And I'm sitting there, thinking, I'm coming back as a tiger. I was like, no, wait, they're almost extinct. I was like, it's like, what could I come back as that would be super cool, And it makes, like I said, again, death becomes more of an adventure and something exciting. Not to go seeking death, but know that when death does come inevitably, that you might have a new adventure awaiting for you in another life, that you get a chance that all these things you didn't get to do before, you might get to do again.
Yeah.
And that excites me. That truly excites me.
Yeah, because there are times when I'm like, oh, I wish I had a whole nother lifetime. Because
right.
I would have done this and this and this. Or I know that, my days are numbered. We all are,
Right.
I think once you get past 40, you realize you're halfway there.
Oh yeah, I know. I was like, no, I'm not. No, I was like, I'm turning 45 here soon, so I'm like, oh man, it's getting closer. But honestly, with every year that I wake up and appreciate life, I get another day in this life to do something neat and something cool.
Well, if you ask my husband tells me all the time, he's like, I don't want another life, one and done.
Right, one and done. I hear that a lot. I'll tell you, the first time someone mentioned it to me was before I got into studying the paranormal. Is I was pregnant with my daughter, and my grandmother was not doing so well as my dad's mother, my grandma Rose. She was just not doing well. She had a stroke and she couldn't see, but still full of life. You wouldn't have thought anything happened to her. She was full of love and energy. And I was pregnant with my daughter. And I go up to her and she touches my belly and I said, see? And I was like, I'm going to name her after you. And she goes, thank you so much. She's so excited. Well, I had a lot of complications through that pregnancy, really scary moments. I thought I was going to lose her. And lo and behold, I'm working in the mall, long hours on my feet, and of course I was not cute, lovely, pregnant. I was as big as a house. It was not good days towards the end of my pregnancy. And this gentleman comes up and says, I don't know what your belief is, but may I talk to you? And he was so respectful. And I went, oh, what's going on? Well, my grandmother at that point had then passed away. And he said, well, I just want to tell you that your grandmother is here with her and she's going to continue her life through your daughter. Is that okay with you? And I went, well, I didn't know I had a choice, but sure, I'm okay with that. And I was like, he had no knowledge of that and no way of knowing. But he said, in my culture, that when a baby is to be born, that an elder will pass away and they can choose to continue their journey through that child so that they're close to family.
Oh, wow.
And I was just fascinated. I said, that is incredible. And sure enough, so I named her after my grandmother with her middle name. And and sure enough, she acts a lot like her. I sit there and look at her sometimes and go, I know my grandmother's here because she's looking at those dishes in my sink and she was a very clean woman. She's like, what are you doing? I said, don't judge me, Grandma. My goodness. Petty in the afterlife, like always.
Yes.
That'll be my book title if I write a book, is Petty in the Afterlife.
Well, they always say that when one child is born, another person is passing.
Yes.
I've heard that, And, even interesting enough, one of my grandsons was being born. And unfortunately, Lucy, who works with me very closely, her father was passing.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was, it wasn't at the exact same moment, but it was within a 48-hour period. Mm-hmm. So, it was kind of one of those, moments of you want to be happy because a life just came in, but you're also sad because a life just left.
For sure.
And it's really a weird spectrum to be found in life.
Right.
It's rare that it happens, but it did that time. And both her and I, we totally recognized it in that moment because I'm like a voice of elation on the phone telling her about my grandson being born, and she is a voice of sadness.
Yes.
Telling me that her father had passed away. And so it was a total clashing of the opposites of life in that moment. And it just stuck with me forever, and it probably will.
Always, right? And it's a good way to look at things, though, is the like they said, all the way back to the Lion King, the circle of life, right?
Yes,
that, it's a good way to teach our children and to teach our children's children about the circle of life, is that everything, even in death, we give life to others.
Yeah, and it's so true. And one of the concepts that I was wondering about reincarnation, I was telling my husband this, I was like, I really think that reincarnation exists.
Oh, for
and
sure.
He was like, well, why do you think that? I said, because of the things that I know.
Yes.
And I know things that I don't know how I know them, but I know them.
For sure.
And I know things almost in a natural, instinctive way that other people don't. And I feel like I have some stock knowledge educationally in my brain. And I'm like, where did it come from? And so then I started diving deeper, thinking that perhaps when people come into life and they find their niche in life or what they want to do, and some people say, but it comes so easy to me. And so for me, death and medicine just came so easy to me.
Wow.
And I didn't have to study hard or think hard. It was just like, and I was so comfortable around it.
See,
and I was
there you
like,
go.
maybe I did this in my past lifetime,
You probably did.
And because, at a young age, ever since the age of 7 is when my interest began.
That's so cool.
So it's like, and if you talk to some of the people in our industry, they'll say that it was a childhood beginning.
Yeah.
That their interest, chose their path for them or helped them to navigate their path.
I've seen that. Even in the Taoist beliefs, a lot of times they believe that we choose our path and before we've even chosen a body, and that we write it down and we go, this is the path we're going to follow and this is what we're going to do. And I was like, man, I was a jerk standing up there. Why did I want to do all this? But then I take a step back, and I'm very grateful for my life. But I have had a hard journey. But the way I see it and the way I communicate to friends of mine and family who've also had hard journeys is that let's say that is what happens and that we choose that path is because we know we're building to be strong people. Because how can you be strong if you've never been in battle?
True.
It's like you would be the weakest person. Anyone can watch. Let's say you're studying UFC and you're like, I saw that guy punch him, and you stand there and you're throwing punches at a shadow. But until you're in a fight, all bets are off. I think, what was it? Mike Tyson says everyone has a plan until someone gets hit. I think it was Mike Tyson. one of those fighters that said that. And I go, that is true. And I used to practice with a lot of mixed martial arts. It's challenging myself. And it's definitely different when you get hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the same with death, I always tell people, you see it on television, you see it in movies, you're exposed to it. You're aware of it. Even as a child, psychologically, a child as young as the age of 2 understands death. I'll take that back. They don't understand death. They sense death, and they know that there's an absence. They don't know what it's called, right? So they don't identify with it.
Right.
And they're having emotions, but again, they don't know what those are called, but they're feeling them.
For sure.
And it's not until they get older and get more exposure are they able to start labeling the things and tying that emotion with what it's called.
100%.
And then now they can identify with it. Then as they get older, they start to understand it.
Right.
And then, of course, as our exposure through cartoons,
right.
How many characters in cartoons die?
Right.
All the time. So we're exposing children to death at a very, very young age. But what happens is when they go through this exposure in a very disconnected way, and until they actually get hit with actual death in their family, someone close to them, then they're experiencing a whole new realm of emotions they didn't know existed, that just lay dormant or might have been touched on by the little bit of exposure, but it didn't go to that death because a sentimental attachment was not there. And so then you start seeing people having all these profound reactions and not really knowing how to deal with it. And with our society being so death denying, that it's like, where do you turn? Because it's like, oh, I'm so sorry your loved one passed away.
Right.
When can you come back to work?
Right.
They don't give them that time to grieve. We're back in the Victorian time periods. You were given a year to grieve. You were given that time. The time was rendered and respected. Sure. And nowadays, people don't relate to it anymore, and they don't embrace it anymore. So then next thing you know, John Doe is in the bottom of a bottle and is losing his job and losing his house. They don't realize that it all came back to because he didn't practice grief.
Right.
He doesn't know what it feels like or how it's going to impact him. And he doesn't know how to share it, doesn't know how to communicate it, and nobody's listening.
Right. And they once we start understanding the stages of grief as well, and that it doesn't mean that once you hit acceptance that sometimes the reset doesn't hit all over again.
Exactly.
I've told people that, grief doesn't necessarily even have a timeline because there are some people that we've shared, imagine if you shared 60 years with someone and, that's not, you don't get over it. I always hate when people give that term of, well, you'll get over that or you'll get past it. And I go, should we though?
We call those platitudes.
Right. Right. So I'm like, should we? Because I always tell people you're not supposed to get over it, but you are supposed to live your life and continue as best as
You're
you
supposed
can
to learn
and
to
honor.
get through it.
Yes, get through it.
Yes.
To get to it.
Exactly. And I always tell people, I tell my families, I tell people that I'm working with, death and grief, they have no timeline and they have no hours.
For sure.
It happens when you least expect it.
Oh, yes.
And it'll hit you like a freight train out of the blue. And it can do it 10 years later.
100%.
And people need to understand that that's normal, and I don't think we don't portray that enough in our society.
We don't. We even have movies that, they start in their, that's why I don't watch a lot of romance movies because I go, really? Like I'm skimming past the Lifetime channel, but I'd love a good romance if possible, but I still keep in perspective that this was written by somebody and this is idealistic if life was perfect. But I always see that, they wrote them letters and, before they passed, and then they get to move on with Mr. Perfect, 6 months down the line. I'm going 6 months. And I'm like, if my husband passed, I don't think there's anyone else but me and the cats and dogs. I was like, and that's okay. We have to always think that moving on means, you have to have the next relationship or you must be a perfectly functioning adult. And we're not, because life is not the same without that person. As long as we still continue to live our best life as best as we can.
Yeah, exactly. You always have that impact, and it'll be there for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's just all in how you learn to live with it. And
Right.
we call it a new normal.
There you go, the new normal. That's 100. I couldn't have said that better myself. New normal. Some people don't like that term, but I do because it has to become your new normal.
Yes.
Like you have to function. You have to eat. You have to sleep. You have to, take care of your hygiene. You have, the ADLs. You have to do all of those.
Yes.
You have to do all of those. And once we do that it's okay to still cry yourself to sleep sometimes. It's okay because then that means you loved that person. You cherish them. You cherish their memory. I mean, sometimes even people we don't know, like even Robin Williams was, an icon for me. And when he passed, you would have thought that we were besties and knew each other and that I met him.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get past it. And people were looking at me like I was insane. But he had just made such an impact. I watched every movie he was in and every documentary, everything that had him there. I mean, all the way back to Mork and Mindy. I know some people may not remember Mork and Mindy, but all the way back to Mork and Mindy.
Yeah, we have his shoes in the Thanks for the Memories exhibit.
You're kidding.
We have the shoes he wore in the movie RV.
Oh, so then you're going to see me cry today. You'll see me cry, and I know that you will say that is okay.
It is okay
totally
because you're coming in contact with a relic per se, a second class relic, something that touched him,
Yes.
And now you're in front of that. So it's interesting. Death is interesting. The emotions that are left behind. And I know we wanted to really quickly talk about funerals and the celebrations of life because really and truly, people look at our profession, they're like, oh, you're just trying to, rob us and, give us, charge us all this money for stuff. And they have to understand it's a service that we're providing for your loved one. We want to do the best that you're expecting from us.
Absolutely.
And caring for your loved one. Funeral directors have been around. Caring for the dead has been around since the day we began having life, right? One of man's oldest professions.
There you go.
But really a funeral and a celebration is not so much for the dead, it's for the living. It's for the people they
100%.
leave behind, My grandparents, when they died, they didn't pay for a funeral. They said, well, they don't want a funeral.
Oh, no.
And I was angry.
Like,
I
wait
said,
a
how
minute.
dare you rob me of that opportunity to come and grieve and go through that rite of passage of losing my parents. So to me, it was like they were here one day and gone the next because I didn't get that ritual that most people, we encourage them to take because it helps you to have that final moment, that opportunity to say goodbye, that opportunity to have that, okay, they are dead.
Yep.
They are no longer with me. And this is a funeral that we're celebrating their life, all of the ripples they had upon us in their life, celebrating and rehashing memories so that we can move on.
Yes.
Well, I don't want to say move on. We talked about that, but be able to continue the next steps or the next stages that are healthy in life.
Like, what does my life look like without them now? Because it is a natural process to lose loved ones. So we are supposed to lose our parents, even though it's very difficult, because they were the biggest parts of our life in some cases. And in some cases, people don't even know some of their parents, and in adopted cases, you have the same type of thing. So a lot of times that's why I think funerals are very important for closure for people.
Yes.
And I've learned that more and more with the last few years, because I was like your grandparents. I was like, I don't want a funeral. I don't want this. And then my mom goes, but it's not about you.
Exactly.
And I mean,
it's
you're right.
for you, but it's not. Well, I should say it is about you, but not for you.
Right. There you go. That's a better way to put it.
It is about you, but not for you. It's for them. So speaking of like, do you ever find, we're gonna circle back, if you will, the spirits that you have come in contact with. Have you ever found any of them that you talked about they're not moving on for certain reasons.
Right.
Do you think that there wasn't proper closure? Like we talk about a funeral being part of closure. Was there not proper closure with the family? Is there a relationship door that's still left open for them? Mm-hmm. What are some of the reasons why they stick around?
There's so many. We can start with, I'll touch on the ones I'll start with petty reasons and we'll work up to the bigger ones.
Okay.
Like I said, it's fun to touch on the petty ones. Sometimes they have attachments here that they weren't ready to leave, such as I think on the show Kindred Spirits, there was a woman that wanted to make sure her birds were fed. And that's really why she stuck around, to make sure the birds were fed. And I laughed seeing that episode because I thought that would be me. Like, of all things, I'm not crossing over because I want my birds and the ducks and I care about the animals. So they're literally just sticking around to check on minor things. Others that I get a lot of is the very tough and deep subject of suicide, is that sometimes for religious purposes, they don't feel that they can go into that light or go to that next phase, because there's a lot of preconceived notions about that. And what I have found is I have helped multiple spirits cross over who have taken their lives. You can still be worthy of love and forgiveness, because no one knew what pain you were experiencing with that. And not to condone anything with that or to dispel any religious notions with that. But with being loved in the afterlife, is that sometimes if we weren't loved in life, or we didn't feel loved and it led us to that point, that we may not feel loved in the afterlife. So we're still sticking around thinking, I'm not worthy. And they tend to mope around. And that's something I've seen a lot. Others, they wait for their loved ones, which I've seen that with someone even in my own family, is that he was still sticking around. And I go, what are you doing here? It's like, you have the coolest place you could go to from what I'm told. And he's like, no, I'm waiting for her.
Oh.
And I think that that's just wonderful, to be loved that much in life, that even when your body has left you, your spirit is still waiting here to take that person, because you want to be the one to, like I say, take them to Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so that one's the most touching one I've seen, and I always appreciate that one. And that's why a lot of times you don't see grandma sticking around, because she had her time. She had a good time generally, and if not, she's ready to go.
That kind of like leads into that concept that a lot of people say they died of a broken heart.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Because if somebody's been with somebody for so long, when one has died, one is sure to follow soon after.
That rips me apart. But I take peace in knowing that one day they'll be together again.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's why I said a lot of this stuff that I'm doing, I have found so much peace and acceptance. And I'm hoping with our show that we can help people love and accept each other, and honestly get ready for that next journey, you know, but appreciate your life here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you may not reincarnate. We don't know.
Exactly.
So just in case, make it a good one. Like, have a good time. Who cares what anyone thinks? I mean, even the cliches of dance like no one is watching, I say, who cares?
Yes.
I tell my daughter this every day, that she goes, they're looking at me, or people think this. And I said, what does it matter what their thoughts are? Their thoughts are none of your business. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah. I was like, live, because if this is your one shot, like, will it matter tomorrow what someone thought of you yesterday? Because it doesn't matter to them. They're not thinking of you again. Exactly. They're probably a fleeting thought. So that's why when I see kids acting up, acting crazy in the mall or doing goofy things, I get so full of joy. As long as they're respectful, please don't tear up the mall. But if they're having a good time and they're being silly and videoing themselves on phones. Who really cares? They're just having a good time. Let them live that life, because that joy will transcend to the next stage.
Yes, they're living their best life in that moment, as we all should.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the missions here at the museum, is getting people to understand that death does happen to all of us.
100%.
And to embrace life and realize that right now you have one life to live, and
Right.
that's the one you're living right now.
Yes.
Make it the best that it can be. And if you need to come back, then come back.
Right.
But if you need to hang around, then hopefully Angela can help you out.
Yes. Hopefully.
So thank you, Angela. This was an absolutely wonderful, wonderful
thank you
conversation.
for having me.
Yes,
like I said, I told you we can get as deep as you want to go.
we could continue on for hours.
I know.
There's so many subjects we talked about that I could continue down more rabbit holes. It was fascinating. So thank you again for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the museum.
100%. I can't wait to see. I've been told about this place forever, so I get to experience now. And anyone who's listening, I hope they come here and check out everything. Come twice.
Yes, because you can never see everything at once.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on this podcast, and I hope that you will share this episode and our future episodes with family and friends. We look forward to any feedback you have to offer by giving us a review on Apple or Spotify, and we hope that you will join us for a virtual tour at www.nmfh.org. And always remember, any day above ground is a good one.